The sound mix of this video was crafted to accommodate the maximum output recorded in the review, meaning that the overall volume can appear to be low. You should simply turn up the volume until it feels comfortable and let it stay there for the most realistic experience of the dynamics. Furthermore, listening on YouTube, you should always, and I repeat, always turn off the feature Stable Volume. That will change the experience dynamics. This is done by visiting the advanced settings of the app on computer, tablet, mobile, or TV. With that accomplished, you should ideally use a neutral sounding headphone to get the most precise representation of the sound, kick back, and pour yourself your favorite beverage.
Hey guys, and welcome to a listening experiment here on Stjernholm Review. Today about the MoFi 888. It's the larger version of the SourcePoint 8 that we were really happy about, the listening team and I. And this is the floor standing version that has two bass woofers added. Oh boy, look at that. It is a quite beautiful speaker, and you can even biamp it if you want to. Two ports in the rear. This beautiful finish is the wood finish, and it's also available in a black or white. Check out the specs on the screen. I will be spending my time here actually listening to it. I had several listening sessions with the Silverback listening team already, but I haven't had my own time with it. And that's what I'm doing today, even though it's like super hot outside and I should be on the beach. I am listening to the SourcePoint 888 with different kinds of music and so on. The setup I'm doing here is very simple. We've been experimenting with the placement a lot. I had them further up against the wall and so on. And it appears like it's a speaker that has a huge bass, okay? So having those speakers further up against the wall is actually a problem. I feel the bass is totally overwhelming. And its bass is popular, bass sells, but in the long run, I'm really personally a much more neutral bass guy. So, of course, I like my bass when it's adequate, but it's not adequate when it's boomy and blooming and so on. At the same time, all rooms have a room mode, a frequency typically in the low range that is very much over-exaggerated. In this room, it's around 46 hertz. So it kind of battles with the extra bass in a speaker like this, so it just becomes too much. I'm not saying that this will be the same in your room, but if you look at the way that these speakers are being played at trade shows and so on, they're always moved far away from the back wall. And it's some of the things that my clients typically would go, why do I need to have the speaker out in the room like that? My wife hates that. She wants the speaker up against that wall. What I call wife position is up against the wall. Most people don't want their living rooms occupied by speakers that has to be pulled out so far from the wall. So it could be a problem, but for this pure listening session, I will not be using any kind of room correction. That would be the remedy for a problem like that. I will simply move them out as far as the cables allow almost, which is more than 3 feet from the back wall. And I will be using this wonderful little, very modern setup, the Linkdorf TDI 3400 being utilized as a preamp, and the brand new MXA 8400, which is Linkdorf's Eigentakt, super powerful, super silent power amplifier boasting 8 channels. It can be used in home cinema setups, and it's just a beast of amp that can take these speakers to their absolute max, which I actually did with Sebastian when we had his listening session. Do we need anything tougher than coffee to get through this listening session? Nah, it will just be coffee. And I will have the trusty SPL meter situated somewhere here on the screen so you can see how loud we are playing. Usually I will have a comfortable, focused listening level around 80, 82 dBs. C-weighted. This is the old-fashioned way of trying to optimize how they sound in the room, okay? So far out from the back, away from the sidewalls as much as possible. And I actually ended up playing around with the on axis, off axis, the towing in and towing out of the speaker. And when we are talking about towing a speaker out, it means on axis is the, you can say, most direct sound. You would typically have the speaker's angle towards you. Then we have off axis, which will be the speaker sitting straight on angle. And then you can tow the speakers out even further, or you can tow them in even further, right? So I experimented a little bit, and I'm actually ended up towing the speakers out more to give me a little more reflections here in the room, which is very suitable for a speaker like this. It might look stupid in the room, but man, I don't care about that. I only care about sound, really. Feels bigger, but it's still very, very cohesive. Have stuff right there in the middle. The vocals sits there really nicely. So this is how I'm going to listen to them in this session. And if you want to hear how they sound in a different setup with room correction and everything, you just check out the listening session with Sebastian. So let's get on with it. And remember, the full listening sessions are only available to Patreons. It's a Patreon exclusive. And when I do reviews, we just use little snippets here and there of the impressions and the listening sessions. So if you want to see the full unhinged conversations where there's no gloves on, you're actually just being in the room with us while we discuss various things and fight over stuff, you should become a Patreon to the channel and help supporting honest reviews like that.
Please to help me with my rucksack.
For me personally, my sound profile is super sensitive to things like dynamics, and I play fairly loud. I love very natural sounding recordings that are free, that doesn't sound restricted or overly compressed or raspy or anything like that. Pure, nice, great recordings with a good sense of spaciousness. I hate stuff being pushed and screamed in my face. So I tend to listen to more mellow stuff and play it quite loud. I love my details. It's not that it's everything to me, but if things sounds natural, you are being and airy, you're being kind of sucked into the music much more than if it just screams at you. I make a living helping people finding their sound of their dreams. This job as a reviewer, it kind of allows me to listen to a lot of equipment and assess it, in my daily life and over a longer period of time. So it really sinks in, giving me, a stock of sounds that I know and that I can point to and so on. But what's right for you always depends on how you listen to music, because that's also very different. The art of focused listening, like I'm practicing here, is lost in many cases. People are just, either partying to music or using it as they work around the house. If that is the case, the soundstage depth might not be that important. It's actually more important that the speakers can reach you where you're at, right? There's so many parameters going into what's the right speaker for you and the room and so on, that you really can't just translate my experience and say, oh, that's a bad speaker, that's a good system, that's great electronics or whatever. But that's what makes the hobby great as well. You need to experiment to find your sound. And I promise you, when you hit that sweet spot, what I call the client nirvana, when everything is just feeling right, it's just worth all the experimentation. So never stop experimenting. That's what I did here, and these speakers feels better this way, and that's why I'm listening to them this way.
Commercial!
Catch the point? For independent consulting, finding the sound and functionality of your dreams, shoot me a mail. So I did a 80s playlist because I have another review coming of a 80s hi-fi system. And it turns out that the sound at that time was very lean, actually. We don't have that big, huge bass that we have in most modern recordings today, but it's way leaner. So the MoFis here, they really help out those 80s tracks. This one, I remember driving around on a bicycle with a ghetto blaster, playing stuff like this for my friends. It was great. And this is just MoFi 888 territory. It's nice and full. It's super smooth sounding actually. And we got this modern electronics that are super clean that we're listening to. If we had, like a tube amplifier or something like that, it might be a little too much. They're definitely on the warm, very, very smooth side. I think they will be great with a lot of music, even music that doesn't sound that well. Let's check out another 80s track. Let's just go on an 80s streak, just for some time. And this sounds like it was recorded to some 8-track cassette tape. Actually, we get some depth to the soundstage here. It's not half bad. It's not half bad. It's not like I hate listening to it, and I would definitely hate listening to this track on my Technics SB-R1 reference speakers. So for a lot of music, these speakers, I'm sure that they will do really well. See, now I want to play something like Michael Jackson's Speed Demon here from the Bad album, but unfortunately, this is a remaster and it's not available on Tidal in the original dynamics. And friends, I'm sorry, it sounds nerded, but a lot of the stuff we get on the streaming services right now are all remasters. And they're kind enough to write that they're remasters, but why the hell don't they include the original master as well? Then you can pick and choose what you like the best. I mean, it's not all music that was released originally that sounds its best. Many remasters actually do a great job at taking that music to the next level. But in many, many cases, you end up with something overcompressed that doesn't sound very authentic. and it just totally sucks, okay? Fortunately, I have a Roon library here, so as you can see, I got several versions of this Bad album, and I'm just gonna grab the original 80s CD release, because that is actually what sounds the best to me. You see, I also got some file-based 24-bit 48K version, and then we have these 25 anniversaries on Tidal and remastering my butt. So it just sounds better in the original version, and it will definitely sound better in the original version on these speakers. Might be different on some shitty Bluetooth something speaker, but in this case, the original dynamics, that's what we like. Much more airy and detailed. Listen to that. Bass is being served beautiful here.
I'm headed for the border. It's on my mind, and nothing really matters. I got the video time, looking the view mirror.
Wow.
Easy hot on my tracks, easy getting near. I feel some heat is on my back. Speed, know the feeling, gotta get it. Speed, don't hurry, gotta have it, mind. Speed, mind is like a compass, I'm stuck in a minute. Speed, and get your it right.
Hell yeah. That just totally rocked. Let's just for the hell of it, when I was so pissed about, let's do the super high resolution anniversary remaster 2012 and give that a listen in comparison. You feel how squished that is? All the air and details just disappears.
I'm headed for the border. It's on my mind, and nothing really matters.
God.
Got the video time, looking the view mirror. Easy hot on my tracks, easy getting near.
Original CD. You can call me dynamic super sensitive. It really means a lot to me that there's this breath and air in the music, and boy, what a difference that 2012 remaster did. And unfortunately, as I said before, the original sounds are not available on Tidal, only the remastered ones. So it really sucks. So that's a golden nugget for you out there. Keep your CDs, buy your favorites on the original CDs, and look for that it's not a remastered version. Those things are up for scrap, okay? And you can rip them and store the files. And if you have a system like Roon, it will be presented to you along with your streaming service, and you can decide what is preferred. That's really cool. But when I do playlists for you guys, unfortunately, I have to pick what's ever available in the streaming service, and it will be different for every service, okay? So it kind of sucks. Another nice thin-sounding classic here, Grover Washington, also an 80s thing. I think it's from the beginning of the 80s. Sounds really nice. I'm sorry, I'm on the 80s streak, and it goes really well with these speakers, so we'll get to it. We'll get to some of the ones we usually hear. I mean, that is just super smooth. I don't know if a sound like this in the long run will keep me engaged. I feel I'm used to a little more clarity in the mid-range and maybe in the top end. That goes really well with natural instruments. Like you don't want to, when you hear this horn, you want it to have a little more raspiness, a little more bite. But it's a very friendly sound that will go so well with both modern recordings and old recordings. And that's what it's about. I think it's like, the standard burger that everyone likes, not filled with all kinds of weird stuff that shouldn't be in a burger. That's the 888 so far. Yeah, let's get a little more rough here. We gotta hear a little bit of Run DMC.
You know I'm proud to be black, y'all, and that's a fact, y'all. And if you try to take what's mine, I take it back, y'all. It's like that. Liggy, 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 liggy. For the people, here's a serious song. It's right, not wrong. I should say right on. I gotta tell you something that you all should know. It's not a mystery, it's history, and here's how it goes. Now Harriet Tubman was born a slave. She was a tiny black woman.
A terrible treatment of that drum machine on the tape. It just got really, really raspy. Oh my God, it's bad. It's so bad, it's good, So let's get to some of the really genius stuff from the period here. Remember this one? What a composition. The rest of the album is just, it's not on that level, but this is just a great track. This definitely inspires me to listen to something that I know sounds a little more bitey. I'm thinking specifically about Mark Cohn. It's great albums he did in the 80s. In the 90s, actually. These two albums are definitely my favorites. 91, just named Mark Cohn. Remember a track like Silver Thunderbird? That's a great track. We have some sheen and some bite on that piano.
Watched it coming up Winslow down South Park Boulevard. Yeah, it was looking good from tail to hood. Great big fins and painted steel. Man, it looked just like the Batmobile, with my old man behind the wheel. Well, you could hardly even see him in all of that chrome. The man with the plan and the pocket comb. But every night it carried him home, and I could hear him say, "Don't you give me no Buick, son, you must take my word. If there's a God in heaven, he's got a silver Thunderbird. You can keep your Eldorados and the foreign cars absurd. Me, I wanna go down in a silver Thunderbird." Got up every morning while I was still asleep, and I remember the sound of him shuffling around. Right before the crack of dawn is when I heard him turn the motor on. But When I got up, they were gone.
The vocals are lovely and dry. There's a huge sense of space here, especially when they are towed out like this. It's very smooth and harmonious sound. No edges, nothing that is not delightful, but it doesn't feel, like a golden retriever puppy, as I call it, that is just overly warm and fuzzy and sweet, and it still has the ability to give us a little bite, like you heard here in the piano. It's not like it feels closed off in any way. It's actually very, very beautifully balanced. So now we need to get serious, okay, around here, and do them some justice. Here's a wonderful recording by 2L, one of my favorite engineers of all time. The Hoff Ensemble with Jan Gunnar Hoff. See them there. Nice little music family. Great recordings done in typically great rooms. Interesting compositions. This is from the Polarity album. And here I'm definitely feeling some lack of details that I would get on other systems, especially with the electronics, with the Linkdorf electronics. There usually you would have, details to your face. The little cymbals and hi-hats and edges on the drum skin is not being transported to my ears with as much detail as I heard it before. But you have a very harmonious soundstage. You have a very smooth presentation where everything is in balance. It's just like it's not focusing on specific details. It's more, I think the term is it's a musical speaker. It focuses on the music and not that much of what's in there deep in the signal. But still, you feel a very good sense of balancing, and it's not like you feel that you're missing out as such. I would just say that the fascination of being able to hear little tiny details is not there. So it won't be on your mind that much. You won't be focusing on little things like that. You will just be focusing on the music as a whole. Let's grab some other more hardcore stuff from Sebastian's playlist here. Going vocal style.
Who's out there waking me up? No, you knew I was out until 4 in the morning. Who's out there shouting my name? No, you know it don't belong to me no more.
Usually the productions on her records are really great. This is something different from 2021. CD album cover style here. Not much have happened. Let's check out some of the latest arrivals on the Sonic Snacks playlist that are available in the description of the videos. In the link tree, you find Sonic Snacks playlist, and if you go in there, you can find the playlist distributed for your service. It's done on Tidal and then distributed to all the other services. So it's the same playlist, unless that there's a track missing on your particular service. So this one from Shiba-san, it has some heavy bass in it. So that's a good test of bass. And also let's go for some more serious SPL here in order to see how these guys perform with some slammy stuff. These guys, it's just a whole other level. Yeah, Sven, even though he's old and deaf, he don't like it that loud. But this is just slams, and they feel totally unrestricted being powered with something like the MXA. The 888s are not particularly sensitive, so they require some power to get up there. But Sebastian and I, we got like 116 dB SPL out of them before they hit the end stop, measured in 3 meters away from the speakers. That is really, really impressive for a system like that. That is like a medium-sized floor stander with 2 8-inch basses, and you know that bass, mid-bass, mid-range coaxial driver. It's very impressive. And this, was this like 100 dBs in the listening position? It feels really good. No excessive high frequency content torturing your ears, just a lot of slam. My son would love these speakers, Marcus. You're going to check these out. It might be your dream speakers.
More bass.
And at the same time, we have this coaxial spread that is just so nice and evenly distributed in the room. So no matter where you kind of sit, you don't get huge frequency shifts. Or if I move my head up and down, it's not like I get a huge shift in the frequency delivered to the ears. So it's really a great combination, this. I'm wondering why we don't see many more speakers constructed like this. Okay, so something a little more civilized, but funky. George Duke. You can play that loud as well. Big fat bass drum there. It's like when we get a little more volume on them, they really open up. But it's not like they feel closed when you play low, but they just open up so much more when they get a little juice. And they're just comfortable playing at these volumes, no problem at all. I mean, would you have it any other way, really? No, I wouldn't. Wow. That's great. That's great stuff. Also, I actually stumbled upon this old Michael Jackson track from the Got to Be There. I think this is his first serious album, to be honest, on Motown Records. I can't remember, so don't kill me over it. But it's a great sounding production, as far as I remember. Very nice and airy. Great playing.
You ever want something that you know you shouldn't have? The more you know you shouldn't have it, the more you want it. And then one day, you get it. It's so good to you.
Really have some width here in the sound image.
But it's just like my girl.
I got percussion like out here somewhere.
I just feel so good. So good. But right now, I just feel cold. So cold. Right down to my bones. 'Cause ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
That Bill Withers track has been raped so many times by not that cool musicians, but this is a great, great version. All right, what's else new on the Sonic Snacks playlist? Interesting guitar playing by Jack Johnson. He always feels alive.
They say Taylor was a good girl, never want to be late, complain, express ideas in her brain. Working on the night shift, passing up the tickets, you're gonna have to pay her if you wanna park here. Well, mommy's little dancer is quite a little secret, walking on the streets now, never gonna keep it. It's quite an imposition, and now she's only wishing that she would have listened to the words they said.
Just sounding great, really, really intimate. It's I can't help thinking about how cheap a speaker this is. They are wonderfully built in China, so you know that the quality will be great and consistent if you grab a pair. And it's just, for the money here, it is just a super great all-round speaker. It might be the best all-round speaker I ever had for a review, to be honest. Yeah, I can't think of anything else even close to the price range. The only speaker that actually fascinated me more, that I felt had everything in this room, was the huge Dali Epicor 11, which is like 6 times the price of these guys. So yeah, they have the musicality, they have the power to do almost anything you would ask of them. And they are definitely powerful enough to be a great partner for a home cinema, actually. That would be interesting. The coaxial drivers in a home cinema, in a living room, I think that will do very well for the consistency of the soundstage. Imagine having a couple of these as the left and right, and using source point 8s for the center channel, and maybe for the main surround speakers. Not bad. They have the power to do it, that's for sure. Here we got some live stuff. Nice sense of space in the sound image again. Yeah, and I can't help it. It's the most violent piece of music. And the mics are set up so that we have sufficient headroom to capture the entire dynamic range of the speaker. And if you followed the advice in the beginning of the video about removing things like stable volume and so on, and you are listening on the on headphones, neutral headphones, at a nice average level, you would be able to hear exactly the dynamic range that I'm hearing here. So let's just go for some action here. Finding a nice average listening level in the quiet parts, and see if we got enough juice for the big cannons here. Great soundstage. The speakers disappear beautifully here. I mean, they handle that with no problems at all. I didn't see the SPL meter, but it felt like 100, 2, 3, 4 dBs, something like that. Very nice. And to be honest, I'm just lacking a little detail there in the top end on classical music like this. But it's nicely presented, again, with that huge, beautiful soundstage that extends really deep. And I mean, the speakers disappear. I don't feel any direct sound really from the speakers. This piece I just have to play because it just has so much life and detail and bite and details. Listen to that triangle there. So this will be a challenge for the 888. Nice average level here. The horn is just so smooth and rounded. So you miss a little of that bite and raspiness. When I'm talking about performance of a speaker, I'm talking about metrics like how far does the bass extend downwards, and what are the SPL capabilities in terms of dynamics. It's not like it's just because you want to play loud. A speaker should really be able to have so much surplus headroom that it can accommodate music like this when played at a nice average level. You should never reach your end stops or having this system distort when you play something like this. It's really important because that's what makes the music come alive to me. Listen to that. Wow. Crazy nice dynamics on a track like that, and it makes it just come alive. Again, great sound imaging. You really feel that you have a nice little stage sitting there. Not overly wide or anything like that, even though I showed out the speakers a little bit. It just works very nicely, I think, in this room to do it like that. Might be totally different in your room. But that's just up to doing some experimenting, seeing what works best for you. Maybe I had the compromise of liking the very direct on-axis sound a little better because it gives a little more top end and a little more detail up there. And I have older ears that is probably rolling off further down now that I'm over 50, which also is a part of it to get the sound that you like the best. But still, I mean, it's just great the way it's portrayed here. It's wonderful. You can hear all kinds of music. Did you notice that this was Nile Rodgers, the guy that in audiophile circles got so famous when he worked with Daft Punk? So he's been doing great records for so many years. He's also the guy responsible for the soundtrack of Coming to America, the first. they are brilliant, these speakers. That punchiness and the imaging really, really makes it nice for so many different genres of music. It is just spot on. I mean, especially when combined with modern day electronics. And don't get me wrong here, but I think that it will be too much, even with a super powerful, great tube amplifier. It would be too much warmth. They are very smooth and nice as is. Really interesting speaker. You see all these exotic materials being used in all kind of modern day speakers. They're using like paper pulp for all the cones. And I don't know about the magnets. They're probably pretty well constructed bass drivers. These, I think they're original MoFi drivers made for these speakers. They are great. They look very conventional, but those guys, they can perform big time. And everything is kind of constructed solid enough to make all this work, but it's not like over exaggerated and super exotic in any way, but they're definitely well built. You get a lot for your money here. And I can't help thinking, playing around, I haven't gotten around to try to play around with biamping them. And if you did that, you could experiment by, reducing the bass output a little bit if you think it's too much, or you could get even more if you want. I mean, you can move the balance of the high and the lows by biamping and then deciding how much power you feed to the highs and the lows. It could also be a remedy or something interesting to experiment a little bit with in order to find that balance if you can't have the speakers pulled out from the wall so much. And even this, as I said before, it's not enough to actually get a very even bass, but it's way better. Classic for me, this one.
I fell in love with you first time I looked into them, their eyes. You've got a certain little cute way of flirting with them, their eyes. They make me feel happy, they make me blue. No stalling, I'm falling, going in a big way for sweet little you. My heart is jumping ashore, started thumping with.
Just Ella is just appearing there. Not like they did on the Steinway Model Bs, but she's so well balanced. She just sit there, nice center image. So throwing the speakers out like this doesn't really affect or spoil your center image at all. Not with these coaxial drivers, at least. It just works. And the speakers are totally disappeared. We have this wide image with your bassist over there and the piano over here. Just behind her out there, she's a lot, or she's pulled out quite a bit. She's very forward, but it just sounds amazingly smooth. Very nice. So these guys are so much about pleasure, that's for sure. This is a super high-end recording. And we are listening to the CD version. I actually think I got this Here's to Ben album in some DSD fancy version. You see here what I got? Yeah, the DSD 256. That will be converted by Rune to PCM, but anyway, it's let's hear the highest fidelity one. This is a song that has been recorded by, according to Rune, 1,974 other artists. So if you like the song, you can hear it in so many different versions by other artists. Okay, let's listen.
Keeps Georgia on my mind.
Yeah, and this particular recording, it just get treated too politely by the 888s. When I hear this on higher resolution systems or with more detail, it is wonderfully. It's very intimate. It's so intimate because of all the details that appear, also room details. Here, it feels more like all the other stuff we've been listening to. It doesn't stand out as something particularly special. That's interesting. So that leads me to check out this one mic recording by Franz Leronde, Carmen Gomes Incorporated. It's a great recording, really showcasing depth in the room.
Unchain my heart, baby, let me be. Unchain my heart,
So much air.
'cause you don't care about me.
This works great. Again, lacks some details on the drum skin and the guitar strings and so on, but as a soundstage, it's really presented nicely. Wonderful. Just grabbing something with a little more bite. Mighty Mo Rogers. If you don't know him, worth checking out. Great artist. Interesting, different. Also, the stories he tells is interesting. The story about him here.
Took away the drought. That's how the blues is come. Took away the drum. Yes, they can. That's how the blues is come. Ain't no blues in South America. Ain't no blues in the Caribbean Sea.
Great analog recording, this one. Vanessa Fernandez, sorry.
How did I get so far gone? Where do I belong? Where in the world did I ever go wrong? If I took the time to replace what my mind erased, I still feel as if I'm here but I'm gone. Porched up in a rocking chair, feet all bare, rolling my blunt in a cigar wrap, living at a lesser mind. Never do take the time, waiting for my heart quiet as it's kept.
Wow. Just great. I mean, these speakers, they are really friendly. I need this one as well. grandness. Wow.
I like the way you're a little shy.
The upper bass here with the vocal seems a little bit muddy because it lacks that clarity. It's just not what the speaker is about. And most music will really benefit because it will never sound harsh. But there's some intimacies with this particular recording and especially the vocal that doesn't get treated the way I heard it capable of being treated. So guys, what do I really think about the MoFi 888s through my eyes as a AV consultant? This is a speaker that does extremely well with many genres. It has the performance to party if you want that. It can cover big rooms if you want that. It will sound great anywhere in your listening space due to its design. It's a little bass heavy and requires some help from room correction if you want it close to the back wall. I think for most rooms that would be true, unless you have the ability to actually move out the speakers like we did here. Their strong point is being gentle with all kinds of music and present a wonderful soundstage that is really engaging. They, for some, maybe listeners of classical music and jazz and things like that, or very detail-oriented listeners might be a little disappointed because they don't deliver that absolute detail and you don't hear that fly that just landed on the snare drum in the back and stuff like that. But it is very much about presenting the music in a harmonious way. And that they do really, really well. You don't get any listening fatigue, and you definitely won't get bored with them. If you feel like cranking it up, you just crank them up. They will do so well with that thin 80s music sound any day, and anything just sounding remotely harsh is just being nicely smoothed out. So I think this is a floor-standing hit, to be honest, and at the price point, come on, man. It's like a no-brainer. You should definitely check out a pair if you're in the market for a powerful floor stander. And by powerful, I mean these guys might be among the most powerful that we had in this room, except for the outright dangerous Genelec, the main ones, tested here in the Dream Speaker series on the channel. I hope you had fun with me listening like this in an unscripted video. Be sure to check out the new Record Day review from my American colleague, and also check out Erin's Audio Corner's review of the SourcePoint 888. Both of those reviewers also did the SourcePoint 8, and I think New Record Day also did the SourcePoint 10. Maybe Erin also did that. I can't remember. So they are really well suited to give you their impression, especially in comparison with the SourcePoint 8 and 10. See you on the next one. And remember, no matter what you do, you can't be wrong if you just listen. See you on the next one.